I have stage 4 lung cancer and I'm using my lungs. You know, people don't expect people to have lung cancer and go out and, you know, play a big old brass instrument. In lung cancer, and I guess probably other cancers too, lots of times when we get on a drug treatment, it may work real well for, you know, 8, 10, 12 months, maybe even 2 years. But then our bodies become resistant to it. And we have to find something to move on to. So lots of us are just hoping that research beats us to the punch so there's something there when we need to make that transition to the next drug.
CIMAvax is a vaccine. It's an anti-cancer vaccine that was developed by the Center for Molecular Immunology in Havana, Cuba. 2016, we got our first shipment of vaccine. So that vaccine is actually powering an early phase clinical trial here in advanced stage lung cancer. And what CIMAvax does is it doesn't necessarily shrink the tumors or make them go away, but it causes them to stop growing. So if you have a cancer and you can actually make it stop growing, it doesn't get any bigger, you can live with that cancer for a very long period of time.
Remarkably little out there about CIMAvax that would corroborate some of the early promise of the phase 2 work. I think one of the other major challenges of people flying to Cuba is that it short circuits clinical research. It keeps from actually answering the question in a methodical way by just having people do this in an uncontrolled setting without the results being reported in any careful way. And I just don't think that this is a treatment that has demonstrated enough benefit to be worth getting on a plane for.
And it is only in clinical trials at this point in the US. So unless you're in that trial, I don't think you're going to get it in the US.
People who are terminally ill should not have to go from country to seek a cure. I want to give them a chance right here at home. It's time for Congress to give these wonderful, incredible Americans the right to try.
When you have no hope, perhaps false hope is better than none at all. And all this bill does is let people who have no other hope for conventional therapy, if a drug has at least passed stage 1 at the FDA approval process and their doctor thinks it will help them, if they're given informed consent, they can try it.
You know, we hear this right to try and that's what we think. You know, there's something out there finally that I can try that might save my life. I gotta go for it. But is insurance gonna cover it? Chances are they're not. When you look at what it actually means, it could affect the approval process for drugs that are in the pipeline for clinical trials. It could affect, there's already a difficulty of getting enough people to go into clinical trials for the research to be done and be successful. And this could affect that even more because if they can bypass the FDA, which right to try laws do, then why go into a trial? I can go get the drug and do what I want to do. I personally don't see that it makes a lot of sense to spend the money and go down there and do something that I think might even be illegal.
I am canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba.
It's hard enough to do medical tourism under even the best of circumstances. And when you've got to jump through all kinds of hoops, especially if you're stage 4 with a cancer condition, you know, you don't really have time for all of those distractions. The good news is that Cuba is very close. There are ways around the system, and you can get in to get treatment, but it's not easy. Solutions are out there. And so for those patients who are intrepid and aren't terribly risk averse and maybe have a bit of worldliness about them, they've got that option just 90 miles off the coast. And that's important.
I think some people are doing well on it. It's like a lot of cancer drugs. a small subset do very well on a drug, but is it something that's going to be, you know, transformative? I don't think so.